Quick one, nothing here is financial advice. It's for entertainment and educational purposes only. Always do your own research or speak to a financial advisor before making any investment decisions. Enjoy the episode and like and subscribe.
GM, welcome back. In this one, we're exploring the world of Victoria VR. This is where blockchain technology meets virtual reality. So, the TLDR on this one. Well, these guys are building the first open world MMORPG experience in virtual reality with super realistic graphics built using Unreal Engine 5. So if you want to put yourself into a bit of a comparison, just think about the world of like Fortnite, but with a VR headset on. Now, last cycle, we had a huge Metaverse hype, but these were 2D experiences. Since then, developments within VR have come on leaps and bounds. We have the Apple Vision Pro, we have Oculus, we have Meta's Quest, and these have helped to spearhead a new narrative for VR. And leading the lineup within this as well is Victoria VR, who are making some serious moves here. So we're going to check this out in today's video. Now, if you haven't tried on a VR headset for yourself, you really need to just grasp the magnitude of what's being built here and how immersive of an experience it actually is. Because having used an Oculus myself, it really is an absolute game changer. Experiences become very much real. You have almost a tangible feel to a new game, and you get a sense of stimulation you just don't get in a 2D game. So if you just think about people using mobile a lot, just doom scrolling for hours on end, there's not much of a feel behind that. But I think once people experience VR and they have this MMORPG world that Victoria VR are producing, well, then it's going to be a serious shift in consumer behavior. And it really is the 3D internet, if you will. So let's check out the developments being made here by Victoria VR and the different elements you need to explore. So let's start from the beginning. This was a company founded back in 2018. They are based in Czech Republic, the capital Prague, and this is actually a world-renowned area for virtual reality. So if you just think about it, they have a huge talent pool there in Prague, in which they're based, and that is a core competency of this company. So they then created in 2021 Victoria VR, the crypto project. They had a rather large raise, they are well funded, and they spawned the development here for their virtual reality world. Now they have a growing team of over 80 developers in-house at their own HQ. So this is a big operation. Now from left to right, we have Adam Bem, who is the CEO and co-founder. This guy is pretty much the front man on social media. He's an entrepreneur and a bit of a crypto OG, so he understands the crypto sides of things very well, narrative and marketing, etc. Then we'll move on to Robert Haluska there in the middle. He has the interesting title of Feng Shui Master. So within the metaverse itself, it is based on the 5 elements: earth, fire, metal, water, and wood. And he's responsible for the world in which you'll enter, called Asugia, where the story of Victoria VR unfolds. Then we have a former director at EA Sports in Mario Reyes there, who is now the CSO, Chief Strategy Officer for Victoria VR. Interestingly, he joined with 20 years of experience from the gaming industry, but he started as an investor in Victoria VR and now finds himself on the C-suite. So obviously sees the vision here. So interestingly, doing some of the research into this, I've found that they realized the problem here, that people aren't buying VR headsets to play a specific game. People are just generally interested in the tech and they buy a headset, but they want to flip that and actually have people want to buy a virtual reality headset to participate in their worlds. And at the same time, offer the benefits of blockchain technology with its ownership of the in-game assets. So that's a bit of the backstory here from the team. So let's check out the short trailer here of Asugia and the kind of landscape that they've painted. Now imagine if you've got the headset on, there's hyper realistic graphics. You can, as you can see, build things for yourself, kind of that Fortnite-ish vibe. The sound effects as well, very realistic indeed. So this will be a very immersive experience that's going to take you out of your 2D world, the kind of status quo, if you will, from what you're used to playing games, and then into this 3D immersive environment where you're going to be stimulated beyond belief, really. So this is the kind of landscapes here, and you can see into the distance the different areas on the map, and there's also a central city that we'll see at the end of this video as our character starts to take flight here. So absolutely epic graphics, Unreal Engine 5, and you can see the city in the background there. Now we can also see the deep lore here, Victoria's regions, the 5 elements. We have woods, and you can see the designs within here, very detailed and impressive. We have the fire region. We then have earth, metal, and then finally water here as well. So these are parts of the open world you'll explore, but also the PvE, player versus environment kind of game that people will be playing, taking on the challenges, completing tasks, and moving on throughout the various levels. Each of these regions will also have their own guardian, which you can see in the details here. And I've recently been watching their live streams of the early access demos, and it really is pretty epic stuff. The detail in which they've gone to, the actual feel, the surroundings, and the standout quality of what this game is actually going to provide. I think this is a different experience than we've seen altogether so far. So with this narrative of VR coming to the front, mainly Apple spearheading this, I think Victoria VR piggybacks on that very well indeed. Now, if we just check this area out, so this will be a part of the map known as the Big Market. So as you can see within the walled city, there will be a market, a bit of a bazaar, in which you can trade various NFT items. So if you think about skins, in-game items, maybe some upgrades, if you want to buy some of the virtual lands, or as it is a marketplace, sell it to someone else, maybe even trade some ownership of time on there. So a bit of a rental business on your land to someone who can't afford the full deed themselves. Maybe that's the kind of commerce you can do within here. Now, as an open world as well, so just think maybe you're Fortnite or Sims, you're wandering around, you maybe want to do some actual shopping, and they've got some partnerships in the kind of luxury goods business thus far, but I can imagine this will expand into being able to buy day-to-day items or maybe some clothing, that kind of stuff, and having a shopping experience within this. So shopping, the ability to maybe conduct some form of other businesses, education, and just generally socializing within this world. With the graphic quality that they have, I can see this becoming more of a thing. Rather than in the 2021 cycle, we saw metaverses come out and they had all these promises, but on a fairly boring 2D experience, just sat at your PC, it didn't feel any different to what you've probably grown up in the past playing, the likes of maybe Sims, or if you're a bit younger, Fortnite. But a 3D immersive experience, just imagine it with the headset on, is going to really take you into this world and give you that kind of Second Life, Ready Player One feel. So this news story broke back in February. Apple's Vision Pro set to get the first crypto-focused metaverse app from Victoria VR. So Victoria VR going to be usable within the Apple Vision Pro headset. Now there may be some difference in the requirements here because you will need to actually have your headset plugged into a PC to really embrace the full set of features, but it seems they will have maybe a slightly toned down version on just the basic headset that will be accessible to obviously a larger audience. But ideally, to really get into this metaverse, you want to have the actual hand controllers as well as the headset and be able to move around a bit more freely. But what's interesting here is the fact that Apple is leading the charge in VR. And I think a lot of people will be funneled into the world of Victoria VR because it is one of the leading companies in terms of a fully built out MMORPG in the VR world that I've seen. And they seem to be timing things very nicely here. Early access currently open. You can get involved with that through the website. And if you want to onboard true gamers into Web3, they need to have a new experience. There's no point just giving them Mario Kart, but with play to earn elements. It's not interesting to true gamers, but giving them a new feel, something more exhilarating, which you can do with virtual reality technology, is how we maybe get the gamers into crypto en masse. So I want to touch on the VR lands here because you can actually purchase land within the open world, so the metaverse. So of course, there's a couple of things going on here. You have the gaming elements where you can go through the various levels, complete challenges, progress through the game. But you also have the metaverse where a lot more ownership comes into play. But then you also have the metaverse where a lot more ownership and blockchain tech becomes available. So as you can see on screen here, we have the various regions: wood, fire, earth, metal, water. But you can see the artistic talent that's gone into creating these hyper realistic kind of homes that you can actually purchase. So you can own your own land and then build on top of that land your own home. So maybe in the water world, you'd want to have this kind of cubey looking building for your own. But with blockchain technology, we can have verifiable ownership of our in-game assets like our homes, which we can then go in and personalize. I'm going to jump into the AI builder in just a moment, which is pretty epic. You can do a lot with these. You can also see the capital city down here as well with their various regions, but you can see the level of detail and the Unreal Engine 5 just making everything hyper realistic. So this is why I think it's just an absolute step up from what we saw back in 2021. Now, if you do want to buy a land deed, check out OpenSea Victoria VR Land is what you need to search for, and you can see them available on there. Why would you want to own some land? So this is from their Git book. So you can construct your own buildings on top of the land. Maybe you want to mine resources. Building for presentation, so maybe shops and stores, or even just a showroom of other digital assets. You could have, for example, an art collection in there. Maybe you want to set up your own clubhouse and socialize with friends who are also entering the metaverse. And with that ownership comes the ability to obviously trade the lands at a later date. So maybe you want to start to buy some lands, maybe sell them at a later date, or rent them out. So you could be a landlord in VR. And by making these purchases, some of the bonuses afforded to you, you can build on top of the land, you can mine, so you get mining bonuses, and you also get what they define as modifiers for mining and mystery boxes as well. For many of the in-game purchases, you will need the VR token. We'll go into the tokenomics towards the end of the video. Now just check out this clip from the AI builder, and as you'll see, they have embedded
Generate a prompt for DALL-E 3.0 describing the technologically advanced metaverse shaping daily life 20 years into the future.
They've got some of the biggest AI integrations within the metaverse itself. So for example here, DALL-E 3 is about to produce an artwork on the wall within this person's home. So you can see that this is going to be super, super intriguing and very immersive for you. And the fact is, if you've got access to like ChatGPT, etc., if you've got any questions within game, you don't have to hop out of your headset, come back into the real world. You'll be able to do a lot of stuff within here. So I think this experience overall is going to be pretty epic. So whether it's ChatGPT, Midjourney, DALL-E, whatever it is, you're going to have these quick resource builders using AI to enhance the gaming experience overall. But what's more, and some alpha that I got from a podcast that Adam Bem did, was the fact that they're planning to become a platform play. So they're going to allow you to build your own VR worlds, your own VR business, whatever it may be, using their AI builder. And they're going to create either their own L1 or L2, not specified as of yet, which is going to add a whole heap of new utility to Victoria VR. So this will become essentially its own chain, its own platform with others building on top of it. So this should, in theory, make it a lot more valuable. And so I'm seeing a bit of a similarity to how this will evolve. So currently, if you think about it, it's this Metaverse MMORPG game, but that is kind of like a sandbox or a Decentraland kind of play. But what it's going to develop into is more of an IMX, an immutable X kind of platform. So this is a serious shift in the roadmap, and I think this could influence price very much positively. So we released a full Medium article in this, but basically the takeaways from here, this VR AI builder will significantly reduce development time for VR applications. They can just come and plug and play with the tools created by Victoria VR. This, of course, will be a huge time and cost saver because think about it, these guys have a huge team. They have the expertise in Prague, Czech Republic. And so they can just develop a platform what people can come and use rather than have to maybe hire hundreds of devs themselves, start from scratch. Victoria VR is already steps ahead and has been doing this for years. So they've coined the phrase the Google of the VR worlds. So rather than creating what businesses want in VR, we would build the tools that allow them to do it for themselves. So much like Google is the search engine where you access any other websites, Victoria VR will be the platform from which other companies can build their own virtual reality worlds. We'll just hop into this live stream from the other day. So the team have been doing these regular live streams showing the early access into this metaverse.
And this is basically your where you can put your pass slot. So it's like,
so you can see how using the controllers as the guy is on the left hand side, you then have your hands and the movements well defined and really responsive within this game. And you can see it does just like have its own feel to it. So he's going through and describing just like touching things. The remotes are starting to vibrate. So you're getting this kind of sensory overload.
It looks very nice, like very neat, like futuristic style. That's what we like went for when creating this Hyperloop capsule, as you saw in our video.
So he's going to move from this area.
Go here. You're now going to be exiting the Hyperloop capsule. So let's just.
So exiting this capsule and going into the wood world is the stop off here.
And wow.
So just look at the detail on this thing. It's crazy.
Now you're actually outside of the Hyperloop capsule. It's very amazing. Like the station is really huge.
So just imagine,
and I mean, like,
we're obviously watching this in 2D, but if you have the headset on, if you pump up the headphones in your music, you can kind of think about the experience. And if you've used VR yourself, you'll be able to really understand how this would feel. I think this is going to be absolutely epic. There's also these interactions with NPCs within the game. They have AI algorithms to ensure that they're not just doing the same old thing every single time. It is going to be adapting and evolving world around you. So I think the experience here is going to be absolutely next level. And having watched a few of these live streams now, I think they're really onto something special here because it does look like it is top quality. Now, another feature that the team at Victoria VR have built is this CQB Arena, Close Quarters Battle Arena. This is a virtual reality shooter, and this was built in Unreal Engine 4. And the kind of reason to do this as a bit of a kind of side quest or side project was for the team to see exactly how different mechanics work in VR. And they wanted to test that with something that is already out in the wild and familiar with a lot of players. These are some of the most popular games, these types of games. And so this allowed them to fine tune things before implementing into their metaverse and their game. But this has its own kind of standalone application. It's available to be played on Apple Vision Pro. And once this came out in Q1, they had some very good feedback and a lot of users of this via Apple. Let's just run the trailer for this so you can see what it's all about in the background here. And what they do actually plan to do is have one of the biggest VR tournaments ever seen with some big cash prizes and potentially relating to this here. So they built this custom and this looks damn epic. So positive feedback. If you just look at the way the gun mechanics, etc. work, it seems to be very realistic, and this with a headset on, of course, would probably take you there into the next level and get you sweating if you were to play this yourself. So this is just a bit of a show off of what is possible in VR and what this team is capable of. Let's move on to the tokens. So Victoria VR has its own token. It has good real estate. The ticker is just VR, nice and simple. So I think that stands it in good stead alone. But what is the utility? What's it used for? Well, it is the SOL currency in game. So if you want to buy any add-ons, you want to buy any wearables, you want to upgrade your skin, you want to make some purchases, maybe buy a property, everything is going to require the VR token. So there's going to be a circular economy within the game. Of course, this game is still in early access, so we haven't seen it in full fruition as of yet. And so the economics around the VR token have yet to really set into play. Now, in the meantime, you can stake the token. I'll show you the staking stats in just a second. There was a bit of a land grab via staking when this first went live back in 2021. There is a full DAO setup for this as well. They do want to run it as a decentralized autonomous organization into the future. And so your tokens at the moment, the main utility is, of course, governance and voting on the direction of this platform. And what they've got cooking is a bit of special sauce you'll see We reward our community by returning 50% of in-game assets sales revenues to the VR rewards pool. So if you are staking, there's this kind of virtuous loop, and they want to reward those who are the kind of big users, the power users of their platform. So imagine you're spending in-game in the metaverse, but 50% of that spend is being circulated back into the economy. So that is a very interesting flywheel. On screen, you can see the staking pool stats. If you did want to stake tokens, check out the Stake Now button up there, and you would get some of the kickback of rewards. But as I mentioned earlier, there was this staking opportunity to earn VR lands. And as you can see via the axis down here, staking period in years, a lot of people opted to stake for the maximum amount of points for a 10-year period. So there's a lot of these tokens that are just stuck in a staking contract and are not going to be circulating for a long time. 322 million tokens in total. USD value around $4 million. Now, if we jump into token unlocks here, so we can have a bit of a more detailed breakdown of the release schedule of this token. You can see the emissions, etc., and the vesting periods via their Medium article here. Seed, strategic, team, 36-month vesting period. These are the main ones still to vest, but a lot of the rest of the tokens are kind of already allocated in the market. And you'll see from this pie chart here, half of the total supply, so 8.4 billion tokens, are reserved for the rewards pool for the game. So these tokens, as you can see from Etherscan here, it's the top line, 8.4 billion tokens, 50%, have been untouched because the game isn't fully live, rocking and rolling as of yet. So half the supply will go to community as the game hits high gear. So token unlocks suggest it's around 40% of tokens currently out in the wilds. And you can see over the next week, the inflation's around 8 million tokens, around 100,000 US dollars. There is an unlock coming on the 2nd of July, as you can see here, around $2 million worth of tokens. But let's just break this down here. If we just hide all these, we can bring them back up. The main things to cover are seed rounds. So seed round investors got in at a very good price, and they've unlocked pretty much 2/3 of their 36-month vest. They've got around 11 months left here. So according to the documentation, they had around 11% of supply. That's seed. Strategic, around 11% as well, in a similar position with around 11 months left to vest. So again, 2/3 vested out. Team had a longer cliff before their vest, and so they vest until the month of October 2025. So still some tokens to come to them, again, around 11%. But the majority of the rest of the tokens are out in the wild and already allocated. So there's not a huge amount of token dumpage I would expect, but there is emissions here over the next year primarily that can potentially affect price. But if you do check out the hold accounts on Etherscan, you'll see a lot of these tokens are not moving. And so I do expect this can pick up quite a lot once the narrative starts to play out. If we just look at the charts here, you can see this was the initial launch. It came at a rather opportune time because this was around November, December of 2021, literally the pico top of the previous bull market. And then what you've had here, people getting their tokens, being really washed out here. And this thing bottomed around 0.008 cents. We had the Apple news back at the start of February of this year. Price pumps to around 6 cents and has since sold off to that. But as you can see, a lot of developments are coming. It's currently in early access. And here is the roadmap. It seems like the pieces are starting to come together, and that chart looks very much bottomed out. You think about the churn that would have occurred. Anyone who was going to sell would have sold through the bear market. And now they're starting to build and release. And I think this is a narrative that will pick up with releases coming from the likes of Meta, Oculus, and Apple themselves. If you want to check out the early access of this game, maybe you've got your own headset at home, go to the website, you can do that. But we can see on the roadmap, Apple Vision Pro app. So that was the CQB, that fun shooting game that all rolled out already. And they kind of plan out things on almost a 3-month basis to keep momentum going. You've got the various areas within the map having their releases, like the Earth PvP takes place around September of this year, Metal PvP by November, Water by December, and they're hinting at VR having a new token utility. But as I mentioned earlier, that is going to be the fact that Adam dropped in a podcast that with their virtual reality AI builder, they're going to become more of a platform, hence the IMX comparison from earlier, which means the token utility potentially is going to be like a gas token. So very interesting developments here. Virtual reality with hyper realistic graphics certainly looks a cut above the competition and potentially going to bring and onboard gamers into the Web3 ecosystem. So super excited to follow along with updates from Victoria VR. Hope you enjoyed this one. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.